Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Hilaal TV. And it's South Africa at The Hague. We're chatting about the case that the South African legal team has brought forward at the ICJ in The Hague. And we covered that live on Hilaal TV. And post-analysis, something to be proud of as South Africans. I think we've definitely put our best foot forward. We had our best legal minds deliver a case, a compelling case, to the judges that were seated at The Hague. And in studio, we'd also like to welcome back, another attorney and a human rights activist, Iksan Higgins. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to yourself and to the listeners.
Jazakallah so much for affording us your time. I can imagine that your phone's been ringing off the hook. You've been on calls with various colleagues and in the legal fraternity as well, around the case that our South African legal team delivered today. What are your thoughts around today's proceedings?
Well, for us, firstly, it's a very proud moment. We're at a very proud moment in history. We as South Africans, we need to celebrate what this country had to offer the world. And watching the legal team, the South African legal team today at the ICJ, they played like a
major player.
They were a professional outfit.
I agree.
The strategy was perfect. The nuances was perfect. They provided excellent argument. They provided excellent evidence. It aligned. The arguments aligned. They aligned. So I think, we've got a lot to be proud of. This was on the scale probably of a World Cup.
Absolutely, for sure. And we've won a couple of those.
We've won a couple of those, or rather, in 2010 we had the Soccer World Cup. The pride that South Africans had at the time. This was probably the same type of moment.
It's paramount to how we as South Africans feel right now, and I think it solidifies some of the challenges that we've been facing, and maybe helps towards alleviating some of those challenges as well.
Yeah, look, sadly, with all the positives comes a little bit of negative. And sadly, I'm on probably about 12 different legal chats, different lawyer chats. And there's a lot of South Africans still, that's still, they're still basking in this whole polarization of black and white. You'll find a whole lot of our colleagues, a lot of our white colleagues, not all, a few of them, that's saying we stand with Israel. And I can't understand why.
Right.
This is the moment that we're supposed to be patriotic.
For sure.
This is the moment. There's a nice Latin saying that says, dulce et decorum est pro patria mori. It is a sweet and seemly thing to die for one's country. And we don't often have that opportunity. This today tomorrow, that's the moments that we should be prepared to die for our country.
Right. I think we were all holding on to every word that was delivered today in terms of, as South Africans, knowing what this means for us and how our legal team has brought that case forward towards the sitting judges as well. And there was a variety, a good mix represented from various countries. What are your thoughts around that? Because the reason I'm asking about this is that previous cases had a bit of merit and was awarded in the right way that it should have been. Have we delivered enough?
I think our legal team has delivered sufficiently.
Okay.
Remember, the threshold is not that high in terms of what we're asking. We're saying stop the bombardment, stop the atrocities happening currently in Palestine, in the Gaza, especially, other places as well. But the threshold is not that high.
Right.
It's not like we have to go now deep into the merits of this particular matter. We need to present a case. They provided the evidence. They provided the statements made by the Israeli leadership and of this intention to have a genocide. So we don't really need to be that persuasive, even though we were. For those judges, they are highly educated.
Of course.
They understand the legal processes. They understand substantive law. They understand adjectival law, procedural law. So I can't see how any of those judges, if they apply their minds independently,
Yeah.
can come to a different conclusion than what South Africa has asked for today. Even, I mean, despite what Israel may say tomorrow. But the reality is, those judges, if they apply their impartial legal minds, they should come to the conclusion that South Africa must get the relief that they were seeking today.
But therein lies the concern of most of South Africans and the rest of the world, is that the geopolitical climate, how does that play a major impact in their decision and their legal understanding of South Africa's case?
Okay, now, of course, we're sitting with a problem with politics,
Right.
and it's all about politics,
Correct.
I guess.
Yeah.
So one must moot the point whether those judges that were sent, to sit on that particular panel, were they instructed by their countries to vote in a particular way. Now remember, this is not about voting. This is about listening to argument. They were presented with certain arguments. They were given evidence. So if one applies one's mind to that, one could only come to the right legal conclusion. However, if your country sent you there to go according to a certain policy, then of course you're going to vote in accordance with that policy. But that, for me, is it will taint that particular tribunal, the ICJ.
I fully agree. I think that's where everybody's keeping a very close eye on that as well. That's the elephant in the room with regards to how their decision is going to be made as well. We had strategically 8 speakers from South Africa. 2 were from the UK and Ireland as well. How did they fit into the mix with regards to being on our panel, on our team?
Well, I think we had our own panel, and of course, the nice thing was that we had extra members from different countries who gives the argument an international flavor.
Nice, yeah.
So it doesn't just come from South Africa. I mean, South Africa.
It's not like it's sour grapes that,
It's not like South Africa now has a situation where it's just us that is now bringing forth arguments based on whatever spat.
And it's, I think, Guatemala, Bolivia, one of the countries that also probably going to follow suit as well.
No, a lot of countries followed suit in terms of supporting the South Africa's application. But the reality is, we still don't know what will motivate those judges to make a decision. But if the decision goes against South Africa, because remember I said the threshold is low to convince those judges. It's interim relief. If it goes against South Africa, okay, let me first sketch a scenario if it goes for South Africa. If the decision goes for South Africa, then of course that decision will be sent to the Security Council. The Security Council will then obviously have to make a decision what to do about the errant Israel.
Right.
However, you have a situation whereby maybe the UK and maybe the US will immediately veto any decision to stop Israel, irrespective of how. And that makes it problematic. Because now you have a United Nations who has a tribunal such as the ICJ, who has a forum like the Security Council, but decisions cannot be implemented.
I got you.
Judgments cannot be enforced.
Okay. We do rely on the UN to play a massive role within the world sphere as well. However, we regard them as a custodian to ensure that various security measures are put in place as well. Big impact here on the UN and the decision that the panel is going to make.
But you are right in saying that they are deemed to be a custodian of peace and security, all those nice things. But if they are unable to fulfill their role,
what then?
Then I think the world or the nations must relook at the legitimacy of an institution like the United Nations.
Because they have a lot of clout. They are the benchmark in terms of where decisions are made sometimes.
Yeah, but your problem is you have so many resolutions that are simply being ignored.
True.
You have so many resolutions that when it is sent to the Security Council, it's being vetoed. So, and judges refusing to recuse themselves. So the reality is there's too many problems within the United Nations. And when BRICS, an organization like BRICS, starts establishing themselves as a world body, then maybe it is time to relook at the usefulness of the United Nations.
Very important point.
And maybe even terminate the United Nations and start off afresh with an entity that will really have the heart of nations at its core, and peace will prevail in the world.
Very quickly, tomorrow Israel delivers the counter to South Africa's case. Not much sleep for them tonight.
Well, I do think they will. They're probably prepared already. I don't think that this is a rush job for them. I think they will obviously counter it with a whole lot of issues that will create a factual dispute. And that factual dispute will then muddy the waters so that those judges who are supposed to give an impartial judgment will have a reason to maybe vote in their favor.
Brilliant. Human rights activist and attorney, Brother Iksan Higgins, Jazakallah so much for coming into
Shukran very much for
We'd like to
inviting me.
invite you back and we continue this conversation as the days unfold.
Inshallah.
And we look forward to all the great work that you do in and around our communities. Have a great one. Assalamu alaikum.
Shukran. Assalamu alaikum.
So that's how we end our coverage in Cape Town for the coverage of The Hague. And the ICJ, the South Africa's, case that they delivered at The Hague, our legal team. We now cross over to Johannesburg, where Faraz Patel and our team in Johannesburg continue with our coverage. From the Cape Town team, Sohail Barnes and myself, Luqman Shadrack, also Brother Ahmad Mishawi, we wish you a lovely evening. Assalamu alaikum.